Have you ever stumbled upon a secret so dark, so earth-shattering, that it made you question every single thing you thought you knew about your life? I'm talking about the kind of revelation that rips through your heart like a jagged blade, leaving you gasping for air, wondering if the people you love most have been lying to you all along. My name is Ethan, and I thought I had a pretty good handle on my world, a loving wife, a quiet life, and memories of a father I idolized, even after he passed. But one dusty afternoon, while cleaning out an old attic, I found something that turned my reality upside down, exposing a betrayal I never saw coming. If you've ever been blindsided by a truth you weren't ready for, or if you've ever had to face the ghosts of your past while your present crumbles, stick with me. This isn't just a story about family or love. It's about lies, heartbreak, and the desperate search for answers when everything you believed in feels like a lie. I'm sitting here in my dimly lit kitchen in a small town just outside Portland, Oregon, the rain tapping against the window like it's trying to get in, mirroring the storm that's been raging inside me for weeks. It's late, way past midnight, and I can't sleep, haunted by words written on a piece of yellowed paper that I wish I'd never read. If you've ever felt like your past reached out and slapped you across the face, or if you've ever wondered how to rebuild trust when it's been shattered by someone who's no longer even here to explain, then you'll understand why I need to get this off my chest. Let's go back to a time when I thought I knew who I was, to a marriage I believed was my safe harbor, and a father I thought was my hero, until a hidden letter changed everything I thought I knew. I grew up in this same rainy corner of Oregon, in a modest split-level house on the edge of town, where the smell of damp earth and pine trees was a constant backdrop to my childhood. My dad, Michael, was my rock, a tall, broad-shouldered man with a quiet strength and a deep laugh that could fill a room. He worked as a mechanic at a local garage, always coming home with grease under his nails and stories about the quirky customers he'd dealt with. My mom left when I was just a toddler, so it was just me and Dad, a team of two against the world. Our house wasn't much. Peeling paint, a leaky roof. But it was ours, filled with the sound of classic rock on his old radio and the clatter of tools as he tinkered with broken things in the garage. I was a scrawny, introspective kid, more into books than sports, and Dad never pushed me to be anything I wasn't. He'd sit with me on our sagging porch after dinner, the Columbia River Gorge looming in the distance, and tell me stories about his own childhood, teaching me life lessons in his gruff, no-nonsense way. I looked up to him like he was invincible. But life wasn't always easy. Dad struggled with money, often working overtime to keep us afloat, and I remember the worry lines etched into his face when bills piled up. When I was about 10, he got sick. Lung cancer, the kind that creeps in slow but hits hard. He fought it for 3 years, hiding how bad it was until he couldn't anymore. I'd sit by his hospital bed, holding his rough hand, feeling so helpless as he got thinner, his voice weaker. He passed when I was 13, leaving me with an ache I didn't know how to fill. I went to live with my aunt in Portland, but I never forgot those last words he whispered to me. "Take care of yourself, Ethan. You're stronger than you think." I carried that with me, a piece of him I clung to through the lonely teenage years, through foster care after my aunt couldn't handle me, and into adulthood. I built my life on the memory of his strength, determined to make him proud. Fast forward to my late 20s, and I thought I'd finally found my footing. I'd worked my way through community college, landed a steady job as a warehouse manager, and met Claire, a kind-hearted woman with a sharp wit and a smile that could melt away my worst days. She was a florist, always smelling faintly of roses, with a knack for seeing beauty in the smallest things. We dated for 3 years before I proposed on a misty hike in the gorge, the same place Dad used to take me fishing, and she said yes with tears in her eyes. We got married in a small ceremony at a local park, surrounded by wildflowers and the sound of the river, and settled into a fixer-upper house just outside town. Life with Claire felt like a warm blanket after a lifetime of cold. Cozy nights watching old movies, lazy Sundays fixing up the house, and long walks through the damp, green woods that surrounded our little slice of Oregon. I'd sit on our back deck at dusk, watching the fog roll in over the hills, and feel this deep gratitude for the stability I'd found, for a love I thought was unshakable. But even in those early, happy years, there were shadows I didn't fully see. Claire had a past she didn't talk much about, failed relationships, a family she was estranged from. And while I respected her privacy, I sometimes felt a distance, a part of her I couldn't reach. I'd brush it off, telling myself we had time. That love meant giving space. And me? I carried my own baggage, the weight of losing Dad so young, the fear of being left again that I never fully shook. I'd wake up some nights, heart racing from dreams of his hospital room, and Claire would hold me, whispering that I wasn't alone. I believed her, believed in us, and poured everything into building a life that felt safe, a home that could withstand anything. I'd drive past Dad's old garage on my way to work, now under new ownership, and feel a pang of nostalgia, a longing to tell him about Claire, about how I'd made it, just like he wanted. As the years ticked by, though, small cracks started to show. By the time I was 34, Claire and I had been married for 5 years, and while we were still close, life had settled into a routine that sometimes felt more like habit than passion. We'd been trying to start a family, but after 2 miscarriages, the grief hung heavy between us, unspoken but palpable in every quiet dinner, every empty room in our house. I threw myself into work, taking extra shifts to avoid the silence at home, while Claire seemed to retreat into her flower shop, spending long hours arranging bouquets as if they could fix what was breaking inside her. I'd come home to find her staring out the window, lost in thought, and I'd wonder what she wasn't saying, what I wasn't asking. But I didn't push, didn't want to rock the boat, because I was terrified of losing her, of being alone again like I was after Dad died. I'd walk through our neighborhood at night, the air damp and cool, streetlights reflecting off wet pavement, and feel this gnawing unease, a fear that I was failing her somehow. Time moved on, and I tried to focus on the good. We went to therapy for a bit after the second miscarriage, and it helped, at least enough to keep us talking, to keep us trying. I started fixing up the house again, painting walls and repairing the creaky porch, as if physical labor could patch the emotional gaps. Claire seemed to brighten a little, bringing home flowers to decorate the kitchen, and we'd have moments, brief, fleeting ones, where it felt like old times, laughing over burnt pancakes or dancing to the radio in our socks. I'd take long drives along the winding roads near the gorge, the river glinting through the trees, and tell myself we were okay, that we'd weather this storm like we had everything else. But deep down, I knew something was off, a tension I couldn't name, like a thread pulled tight, waiting to snap. I just didn't know what, or who, would pull it. The unexpected twist came on a dreary Saturday afternoon a few weeks ago, when I was 34 and thought I knew the shape of my pain. Claire was at the flower shop, working a wedding order, and I decided to tackle the attic, a cluttered mess of old boxes and forgotten junk we'd been meaning to sort for years. The house smelled of mildew as I climbed the rickety pull-down ladder, a single bulb casting long shadows over stacks of cardboard and cobwebs. I started with the easy stuff, old clothes, broken furniture, until I came across a small, dusty trunk tucked in the corner, one I vaguely remembered as Dad's. My heart gave a little thump as I opened it, expecting tools or car manuals, but instead, I found a bundle of papers tied with twine, yellowed with age. On top was a letter, sealed in an envelope with my name scrawled across it in Dad's familiar, uneven handwriting. My hands shook as I held it, a rush of memories flooding me. His voice, his laugh, the way he'd write me notes when I was a kid, hiding them in my lunchbox. I sat cross-legged on the cold attic floor, the rain drumming on the roof, and opened it, not knowing I was about to shatter my world. The letter started innocently enough, Dad's words full of love, telling me how proud he was, how he wished he could have been there to see me grow up. But as I read on, my stomach dropped, a cold sweat breaking out on my neck. He wrote about a secret he'd kept, something he'd never told me because he thought it would hurt too much. He confessed that he'd had an affair years before I was born, a brief but intense relationship with a woman named Ellen, someone he'd met at the garage. He said it ended before I came along, but the guilt stayed with him, especially because Ellen had a daughter, a girl just a few years younger than me. My breath caught as I read the next line. I think you've met her, Ethan. I think you know her better than I ever did. Her name is Claire. My mind reeled, the attic spinning around me, as I gripped the letter so hard it crumpled. Claire? My wife. Was Dad saying, was he implying she was my half-sister? Or just that he knew her family, that there was some connection I'd never been told about? The letter didn't clarify, just ended with an apology, a plea for me to forgive him for keeping this hidden, for not knowing how to tell me the truth. I sat there for what felt like hours, the rain turning to a dull roar outside, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. My first thought was disbelief. There was no way this could be true, no way Claire could be tied to Dad like that. But then memories started creeping in, unbidden, pieces of a puzzle I'd never thought to solve. Claire had always been vague about her past, mentioning a father she never knew, a mother who'd raised her alone in a town not far from here. I remembered how she'd once asked about Dad, casual questions about where he worked, what he was like, and I'd thought nothing of it. Had she known? Had she been hiding this connection all along, marrying me despite it, or because of it? My mind raced with darker possibilities. Was our marriage some kind of twisted attempt to get close to Dad's memory, or worse? Was there something genetic, something unthinkable I didn't want to face? I felt sick, the weight of the unknown crushing me, as I stuffed the letter into my pocket and stumbled downstairs, the house suddenly feeling like a stranger's. In the days that followed, I kept silent, a decision that tore at me every second. I didn't tell Claire I'd found the letter, didn't ask her the questions burning in my mind, though I watched her like a hawk, searching for signs of deceit in every word, every glance. I'd come home from work, the warehouse noise still ringing in my ears, and see her arranging flowers at the kitchen table, her hands so gentle, and feel this mix of love and dread. Did she know about Dad? Was she hiding something? Or was I spiraling over a misunderstanding? I started digging, late at night when she was asleep, going through old photo albums, searching online for any trace of an Ellen connected to Claire or Dad, but found nothing concrete. Every dead end made me angrier, more desperate, until I was snapping at Claire over nothing, spilled coffee, a late dinner. Hating myself for it, but unable to stop. I'd walk along the river near our house, the water dark and churning, and feel this crushing loneliness, a longing for Dad to be here, to explain, to tell me I was wrong about all of this. Reflecting on my past, I started seeing things I'd missed, or maybe just ignored. Dad had always been private about his early life, brushing off questions about the years before I was born with a gruff, "Doesn't matter, kid." I remembered odd moments, phone calls he'd take in hushed tones, a woman's name I'd overheard once or twice that he'd quickly changed the subject on. Had that been Ellen? Had he been hiding a whole other life? A daughter? A guilt I never knew about? And Claire? Had I been blind to her hesitations, the way she'd sometimes look at old photos of Dad with an expression I couldn't read? I thought about our marriage, the struggles we'd faced, and wondered if I'd been too trusting, too eager to build a family to notice red flags. I'd sit in Dad's old armchair, the fabric still smelling faintly of motor oil, and feel guilt tangle with my anger, a bitter realization that maybe I'd never really known the people I loved most. The emotional weight deepened as I wrestled with what to do next. Part of me wanted to confront Claire, to lay the letter on the table and demand answers, to know if she'd been complicit in this secret, if our entire marriage was built on a lie. But another part feared what I'd hear, feared losing the one person who'd made me feel whole after Dad's death, even if that wholeness was now in question. What if she didn't know? What if I shattered her world too, over something that might not even be true? I started journaling, something I hadn't done since I was a grieving teenager, pouring my confusion and pain onto pages in the dead of night, trying to make sense of a betrayal that wasn't even fully clear. I'd drive to the gorge, park at the same spot where I'd proposed, and stare at the misty peaks, feeling this ache for simpler times, for a father I could ask for guidance, for a marriage I could believe in again. I thought about the life Claire and I had built, the small, precious moments that still lingered in my mind despite the doubt. I remembered the day we moved into this house, paint cans and laughter everywhere, how she'd kissed me with paint on her nose and promised we'd grow old here. I thought of the nights after the miscarriages, holding each other in the dark, not saying a word but feeling everything. Could I throw that away over a letter, over a suspicion that might be nothing? But then I'd think of Dad, of the trust I'd placed in his memory, and feel this burning need for the truth, no matter the cost. I started avoiding Claire's touch, making excuses to sleep on the couch, feeling like a fraud every time I said, "I love you." I'd walk through town, past the diner where Dad used to take me for pie, the garage where he'd worked, and feel like I was carrying a ghost, a secret that was heavier with every step. Now, weeks after finding that letter, I'm at a crossroads, torn between a past I can't escape and a future I can't predict. I still haven't told Claire, though she's noticed the distance, asking if I'm okay with a worry in her eyes that cuts me deeper than I can say. I've hidden the letter in a locked drawer at work, but it's like it's burning a hole in my mind, always there, always whispering. I keep replaying Dad's words, the ambiguity of it all, and feel this desperate need for clarity, for a truth I'm not sure I'm ready to face. I've been spending more time alone, driving through the rain-soaked backroads of Oregon, the trees a blur of green and gray, trying to decide if confrontation is worth the risk, if there's anything left to save with Claire if this turns out to be as bad as I fear. She's still my wife, still the woman I come home to, but every moment feels shadowed by doubt, by a question I can't ask without breaking everything. I keep coming back to a memory of me and Dad, maybe when I was 8, sitting on the hood of his old truck outside the garage, sharing a soda as the sun set over the river. He'd ruffled my hair and said, "Life's messy, Ethan, but you've got to face it head on." I can still feel the warmth of that moment, the certainty of his presence, and now it's like a weight, pressing down on me every time I think of what he might have hidden. Trust is such a fragile thing, isn't it? Once it's cracked, can you ever mend it? Or do you just live with the fracture? I don't know if I'm ready to face Claire, to hear her side, or if I can handle the possibility that Dad's secret, whatever it is, might redefine everything I am. I don't even know if I can trust myself to make the right choice, if this pain has warped me too much to see clearly. So, I'm turning to you, whoever's out there listening. Have you ever uncovered a secret from the past that changed how you saw your present, your loved ones, yourself? How did you decide whether to seek the truth, even if it meant losing everything, or to let it lie, hoping ignorance could save what's left? Did you confront the unknown head-on, or did you bury it, praying time would dull the edge? I'm standing on the brink of a decision that could destroy what's left of my world, and I don't know which way to turn. Should I show Claire the letter, demand answers, risk our marriage for a truth I might not want? Or should I protect what little peace I have left by keeping this buried, even if it means living with the doubt forever? Drop your thoughts, your stories, anything that might help me see through this rain and fog. Because right now, in the quiet of these Oregon nights, I'm lost, and I don't know if I'll ever find my way back to the man I thought I was.